Hi guys, my name is Moran. Welcome to my series Getting Personal, where I gather different stories from Reddit. And today we are dealing with some serious topics, and mostly it's the stories that I found horrifying and borderline criminal, in some cases just criminal. And that's why the whole topic of this video is jail, because I think those people belong there or are just very, very alarming. So I think we might need some trigger warnings today, which will include abuse and sexual assault. So if you don't want to deal with anything like that, it's a good time to click off. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first story I have is from True Off My Chest, and it is I found out it wasn't my boyfriend who was having sex with me, it was his twin. My boyfriend Jay has a twin brother Kay. They are almost 99% identical apart from one feature, which is their nose. My boyfriend has a big nose while Kay's nose is smaller and doesn't have much of a bridge. Apart from that, they are identical, they even talk the same, have the same voice, same everything, but I only love Jay. 4 days ago, I was laying in bed and the lights were very dim and I didn't have my glasses on, so when Jay walked in from work talking to me normally, I didn't think anything of it and started chatting with him. And one thing after the other, he was suddenly kissing me. I kissed him back and he was taking off my pants, started eating me out, to be blunt. I was enjoying myself, but after a few minutes, I realized something. When my boyfriend would do this, I would always feel his nose pressed against me, and he would use it to his advantage and intentionally move it alongside his tongue, but I wasn't feeling his nose. I looked out, and when I focused on Jay, I realized his nose was small and that it wasn't my boyfriend between my thighs. I panicked and didn't know what to do and just froze up. Kay noticed and asked if I was alright. I said yes, but I needed a break and ran to the bathroom. I didn't confront him, I don't know why, but I just felt scared and confused, so I locked myself in the bathroom until he eventually left after knocking dozens of times on my door. After I made sure he was gone, I went to my parents' place and I have been there ever since. I haven't answered any of my boyfriend's calls or texts, and I didn't tell anyone because I just don't want anyone to know. It's not really understandable, I know, but I don't want anyone who knows me to know that happened to me because I'm embarrassed for some reason. I feel used and just dumb, and I'm now realizing that there are numerous times where it could have been Kay having sex with me in states where I was tipsy or tired or the lights weren't on. This is profoundly terrifying. I think there is no going back to the boyfriend. I don't know if it would be possible to press charges because I don't think there might be a lot of proof to actually, make a point. But overall, I think this is just straight up insane. I would really like to know if the boyfriend was in on it. Hopefully not, because it would make everything so much worse. But I just want to say from the story that whenever someone feels the way OP feels, it is typical for the victims of sexual assault. Feeling embarrassed for some reason and not knowing why you feel embarrassed, then feeling used, hurt, confused. It's all very, very understandable, and likely the OP will need therapy for this because it's very hard to process things like these by yourself. I don't understand how the brother thought it would be fine to do something like this. Probably he knew it's not fine, obviously. I mean, people don't just go around and fuck their twins' girlfriends. Well, I should say rape their twins' girlfriends. So yeah, that man belongs in jail. Okay, let's look at another story. This one is from Relationship Advice, and it is: I, 28 female, found pictures of little girls on my boyfriend's 28 male hidden photo album. We've been together for 7 months, and about a month ago, I found out he was cheating on me near the beginning. I forgave him for that and we moved on, but I still had issues. I decided to look through his phone and found 41 pictures of little girls wearing tight workout clothes and swimsuits posing in weird gymnastic stretches with their legs spread out, and pictures of their backside. Some of the girls looked to be 8 or 9. Most were preteens, maybe around 12 or 13. When they confronted him about it, he said, "There is nothing to explain. I was tired of you going through my stuff, so I put them there to see what great length you would go to find something on me. That was an absolute stupid decision to use pictures like that. I have nothing left to say. You have your mind made up already." He did not plant them there. That man is straight up sick. Leave him. Run right now. This sounds like a typical lie of someone who just was found out and caught in something very, very weird and sick, and he's just trying to cover up his tracks, trying to see basically if you're stupid enough to believe him. No, you've just been caught. Just own up to it and go off. I'm freaked out because I have kids, and my daughter, who's 8, has similar features to these girls. I asked her if he's ever been inappropriate with her, and she said no, but I'm still worried. Is something like this reportable if the pictures aren't nude or pornographic? I don't really know what to do, just heartbroken. Okay, there is an edit. Just wanted to clarify that there is no doubt about leaving this man and ensuring my kids are protected. Thank God. I respect this woman so much. I apologize for the wording in this post. There is absolutely no way I would stick around after this and have my kids subjected to any kind of abuse. When I said I didn't know what to do, I was feeling emotionally distraught. I wasn't sure taking it to the police and potentially ruining someone's career and livelihood was the right thing to do. In this instance, I will let the authorities know and they can handle the rest. I mean, I find it very strange when people say, I don't know if it's worth ruining his life and career over this, but a man literally has pictures of 8-year-olds on his computer. Do you think he just looks at them because they're cute? No, that's not why anyone would have pictures of children, of strange children in stretchy gymnastic poses in tightly fitting clothes on their computer. Like, it's pretty much obvious why he would have that. So yes, please report it, and yes, it's worth ruining his life over it, because I mean, he can one day actually take his fantasies to life and ruin an absolutely innocent child's life, and thankfully it wasn't your daughter's life. But you should do absolutely everything to ensure this man has, less chances to hurt someone else. Second edit: I made a report with our local police, and although a crime was not committed, he said it was concerning and they have it on record. I don't know that posting on Facebook dating pages and telling his friends is appropriate. I just don't want to get into any legal trouble, especially during my emotional state. It's time to focus on my children, find peace and healing. Thank you for your support. I would go as far as to say that you should definitely warn anyone that you and him know who has young children, so that those people never ever leave him alone with them, or preferably don't even let him approach closer than a few miles, because this is something very scary. And if I found that on my boyfriend's computer, I would be leaving, as you did, which is very nice. But I would also try to warn as many people as I can about him because this is terrifying. Jail, seriously. So next story is from True Off My Chest. My husband got a husband stitch behind my back, and a year later I can't get over it. For those of you who don't know, a husband stitch is an extra stitch done on the vagina after birth to make it tighter for the husband. I, 25 female, gave birth a year ago, and my husband, 34 male, who was a surgeon at the hospital I delivered, was asked by his colleague, the OBGYN, if he wanted an extra stitch. My husband said yes because he thought it would make sex feel better for the both of us. I didn't notice as I was out of it, but I was in a lot of pain afterward. Since it was my first kid, I was not sure if it was normal or not. I kept asking the nurses, who told me it might be because of the husband's stitch. I asked her what that was and she explained it to me. I thought at first the doctor had done it and wanted to report him, but then my husband said he had agreed to it. I felt violated. This wasn't the first time a man violated my body. I was a molestation victim as a child, but this was the first time it was someone I love. When I told him this, my husband was extremely angry. He said he did it for both of us. That's what they all say. They will literally hit you and then say, well, I did it for both of us, for the bettering of our relationship. And he didn't think it was such a big deal that he didn't know it was cause issues. I pointed out he was a neurosurgeon and he said he wasn't an OBGYN. The fight got ugly. I screamed at him to get out, and in the end, I had to be sedated. I had the same reaction every time he tried to see me. So for the whole time I was in the hospital, 3 weeks because of a slow recovery, I didn't see him. Now my son has turned a year old and things between us are non-existent. I only talk to him about our son. We sleep in different rooms and I don't let him so much as kiss me. He's extremely remorseful, especially as he saw how much it affected my recovery. He genuinely thought it was okay as the colleague presented it as it will make the sex better. Well, I'm sorry, but your husband is an adult and a doctor. And I want to remind everyone that doctors have pretty much similar education in the first years of college, so he knows those things. He also studied anatomy, he also studied the human body and whatever he should have known, not only as an adult, but also as a professional. I'm sorry he's trying to manipulate you. But why would a tighter vagina feel better for women? That only feels good for men. He has asked for couples therapy, which I have refused. I have taken up freelancing, so I'm making some of my own money. My husband thinks I'm doing that because I plan to leave him, as I was initially dependent on him. He's partially right. I don't see myself getting over this. I am no contact with my family and I live in his country. I have no friends but his friends, no family but his. Everyone is on me to make things right. They say he was wrong, but I can't hold one mistake over his head. You absolutely can when you were literally violated without your consent. Someone did medical procedure on you that you did not agree to, and this procedure will potentially affect your quality of life for the rest of it. So him and his colleague. My current country isn't exactly known for women's rights. Femicide is more common here than you might think. I am also on a spouse visa. I can't leave him until my son is at least old enough to remember me, because if I leave there is a 90% chance I will lose custody. What should I do in the meantime to make our relationship bearable? First of all, what I want to say about the story is that this is absolutely horrifying and the husband stitch should not exist. I think doctors should be sort of kinda fired and forbidden to practice again if they do things like that without the wife's his consent because this is just unacceptable. I feel sick even thinking about that. But anyway, him playing it off as I thought it would be fine, and him saying that he didn't know it would be so bad and he thought it would be good for both of us, and that the doctor said it would make sex feel better. Once again, he's a medical professional. He absolutely knew what was happening, what was going on, unless he's like really bad at his job and slept through most of the college. But somehow I really, really doubt that. As you can see here, she's going to leave, but it's obviously hard. Well, she's one of those cases where she's being isolated from everyone, cut off. She doesn't have any means to support herself and her son. She doesn't have like a convenient or at least like an acceptable way out. So she has to figure something out until she can leave. And the question here obviously isn't if she should leave or not, but how to make it bearable. There are only two ways if you can't leave, is to be honest and say that there is nothing potentially fixable for us and that I will be leaving as soon as I can. Try to figure that out, or you will have to pretend until you can actually leave. I find the second option very painful, horrifying, unfair to both people, so I would go with the first one, but then again, it depends on the husband and his capability when it comes to, being a rational adult, a decent human being, which, judging by his previous choice, is not very likely. So yeah, I'm not smiling because I find it funny. I'm smiling because some of these stories just genuinely I feel like are traumatizing me a little bit. So let's move on to the next story. It's also from True Off My Chest. Am I overreacting or is this rape? I, 29 female, met up with a guy for the first time. We hit it off pretty fast and things got heated. We started kissing and fumbling, so I asked if he had a condom. He said he did it. I told him I wasn't comfortable without one because we didn't really know one another that well. We kept doing hand stuff. He kept trying to enter me without a condom, so I said no multiple times. He asked why, so I said, you don't know if I have an STD. He asked me if I had any STDs, so I said, of course not. I'm just saying you don't know about me and I don't know about you. He seemed to accept it, but then he suddenly pinned me down and put his tip against me. Again, I said not without a condom. He proceeded to enter me and said, I'm clean and you said you're clean, so there is no problem. He kept saying, it's okay, this is okay. Yes, this is rape. I didn't finish the story, but yes, this is straight up rape. He was as kind to ask if he could come inside me and I said no, so he came on my belly, so I got that going for me, I guess. So now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting. If he did have a condom, I wouldn't have doubted to have sex with him. Well, it's not the question of if you would or wouldn't, it's the question of you said no and he proceeded to do whatever he wanted against your will anyway. It doesn't make him less of a rapist though. Edit, thank you so much for all the replies. I didn't really expect more than 3 answers. The fact that this happens after a major heartbreak in my life just adds insult to injury. I was just looking to get my mind off of my ex to move on, and now this with another toxic guy. I texted him how I felt and he just made a few excuses for himself, stating he did nothing wrong, so I have him blocked and won't be seeing / hearing him again. Of course he says he did nothing wrong. I feel like cases of rape, sexual assault in general, when it's not that clear cut as, he just is a stranger who tackled you on the street and did what he did, they get very murky, and men who usually do things like that convince themselves that they did nothing wrong. Some of them know perfectly well what they're doing. Some of them genuinely are convinced that there is absolutely absolutely nothing wrong with, this situation, for example, or the situation where a woman is like barely conscious, or a woman is sleeping and, they do what they want to do anyway. So, yeah, it's not a thing that alleviates the level of shittiness of the situation. It's actually just an exacerbating factor, because not only this pig raped you, he also doesn't fully grasp it. This is especially scary because he will probably go on to do it with other women. So, stories like this I see on Reddit almost every single day. That is just devastating, to be honest, because it shouldn't happen to anyone, and especially it shouldn't happen so often. When will this bullshit stop? I'm losing hope in the humanity. Let's move on to a different story. And this one, bouncing off from the previous one, slides into even murkier territory where a lot of women get lost as to whether it is wrong or they are just crazy. Boyfriend makes me feel violated every time we have sex. Me and my boyfriend have been together for 5 months, and ever since we started having sex, I feel pressured and violated almost every time we have intercourse. He would start touching me, and no matter what I say to try to make him drop it, or how many times I say I don't want to or don't feel like it, we end up having sex because I just give in. Few weeks ago, I wasn't feeling up for it and asked for a chill day, but he kept asking and trying to make me horny. So we ended up having sex, but at the end I just turned around and made him hug me so he wouldn't see my face. I couldn't hold back my tears but tried to be quiet. He noticed my mood change and my behavior, so we eventually talked about it sometime later, and he apologized, said he was feeling very bad about it and that he didn't mean to do so. Oh, of course he did. Of course he did. Come on, he knows what he's doing. However, today I was up at his house, and so he made me get undressed so I could try on one of those blanket thingies that you can wear that he bought me, but one thing led to another, so he started going at it. Oh, honey, you don't need to get undressed to wear those blanky things. I mean, they're huge and they are not designed for you to wear them naked. I asked him to stop and told him that I don't want to because I'm on my period, and not only that I'm grossed out by it, but I was also having period cramps. He said that he doesn't mind, and he claimed to have done his research and said that it would be good for me. He also said that he only wants to make me feel good, which he always says, and he would not stop no matter what I said or did, and even tried to put it in but stopped once I said no a couple of times and apologized, though after that he said that he wasn't himself when I asked to cuddle, so he started masturbating, and once he was about done asked me to swallow, which I do not like, but I do anyway. I have tried to tell him that I don't like it a couple of times, but he didn't understand, so I dropped it. Afterwards I tried my best to keep together. Eventually tonight he texted me out of the blue saying that what happened today has been on his mind the whole day and apologized, and I just said I don't want to talk about it as I feel like I'm going to have a mental breakdown if I talk to him about it. I'm sad and can't express the way I feel, but I really need to get this off my chest. You need to leave this man as fast as you can. Just block him, never see him again. He doesn't want to make you feel good. He wants to make himself feel good. He perfectly understands that you don't like it. It's just he doesn't care enough when it comes to his pleasure and respecting your boundaries. The fact that he then started masturbating and then made you swallow his cum even though you don't like it, and it was just out of nowhere and after you told him no multiple times, showcases perfectly that he is just an awful human being that should be honestly isolated from women, and you definitely need to get rid of that piece of shit. And why I said that we are entering even murkier territory with this one is because I feel like when you are in a relationship, especially in a long time one, these things become so blurry that it's really hard to distinguish when someone is forcing themselves on you. And I've been in that situation for a long time. And you just have to understand that if you tell your partner no multiple times and then they go on about the business as if they didn't hear you or didn't care, it is assault. It's not like, just for funsies, and he was just so horny he couldn't control himself. Adults should know how to control themselves, and if your partner uses this as an excuse to repeatedly force themselves on you, you have to leave, because this is absolutely not normal. It should be enough to say no, I don't want to, once, and that's it. You shouldn't have those problems where if you are not feeling up to any type of sexual encounter, when you have to fight for it, and when you are made to just submit and give in because you've been worn down, exhausted, and you want to stop fighting. This is not normal. It's gonna get worse and it's gonna escalate until it's too late, and then you will be bleeding money for therapy forever. Okay, update. Hi everyone, thank you for your concerns and for all of your kind words. I have read every single one of your comments and I really appreciate you all. I have confronted him about everything and I have decided to leave. Applause for the woman. You deserve the praise for this. Good job. At first, I was considering forgiving him, but I realized that I couldn't see him anymore, and although I find it impossible to think of it as rape, I do see it as a form of abuse. Again, thank you for opening my eyes, as I wouldn't have even thought I was getting abused if it wasn't for the people on Reddit and for all the victims in the comments sharing their stories. I'm extremely sorry any of that happened to you guys. You are strong and fearless. My heart goes to you all. I'm so happy you're leaving, and I'm also sorry you happened upon a piece of shit. It just pains me how many awful men are out there. It is heartbreaking, honestly. Next story is actually from Am I the Asshole? And it is, Am I the Asshole for checking my husband's dashcam footage on his car without his consent? I, 34 female, live with my husband, 37 male, and daughter, 7 female. My daughter and I recently went on a short trip out of state while my husband stayed as he had work and was supposed to look after our dog. On the last day of our trip, we got a call from my husband, who was acting distraught and said that our dog Ellie had run away and that he could not find her. He claimed she just bolted away from him in the park into some bushes and he could not find her. Our dog is quite small, a mini poodle mix, and almost 13 years old. She's still active, but it is really unlike her to run away from us, and I was suspicious but chose to believe my husband, and me and my daughter were in grief but did not want to blame him. When we came back home, he seemed surprisingly okay, unlike us. Ever since the pandemic, my husband started working from home, and he has always been annoyed at how much attention we give Ellie and hated how Ellie begged to sit on our laps and his while he worked. A few days later, we get a call from an animal rescue in a neighboring state quite far from us that she has been found. I picked the phone and it was on our landline, which we almost never use these days, but was the contact on the microchip. I told my husband and he just said, "That is great. I'm so happy creepy, but it felt kind of blunt and insincere. I said it is strange that she got so far, and he responded that someone must have stolen her and then abandoned her. This made little sense to me as to why that would happen. When he was out drinking with his buddies, I copied the videos from his dash cam for the days I was away and saw that he had indeed taken Ellie far out of state and clearly dropped her in front of his car, thrown a frisbee-like object into a field, yelled fetch, and drove off without her. I was livid and confronted him, and he just stupidly muttered how he dropped her there so she could find a farm and have a better life, and then the next day got really angry at me for viewing his dashcam and called me and my daughter assholes. In case it's not clear to anyone, you're absolutely not the asshole, and I think this would be divorce for me. Excuse me, did you throw our family dog of 13 years out of your car and just abandoned her in a different state? Because what? Because you were jealous? Because you don't like the dog? Because you don't like walking her? What the actual is happening? Who in their right mind would do something like this? This is just literally sick. Divorce, babe. Okay, another of the top stories is a boyfriend's obsession is creeping me out. It's from 2X chromosomes. My long-term boyfriend and father of my child has a fantasy about killing pedophiles. It gets brought up often, nearly daily. He laughs and jokes about it with his friends, has gone into detailed plans about how they could do it and get away with it, how it's okay because they aren't people. This week, he's mentioned several times that he wants to get us all shirts that say kill all pedos and sent me screenshots of a few options. Don't get me wrong, I detest any kind of child abuse or SA and think the sick people who commit these crimes are monstrous and deserve to be punished. But the level that he takes this to and the frequency of him bringing up the topic makes me so uncomfortable. I'd like to talk to him about it, but I'm struggling to pin down an exact reason. I find it so unsettling without sounding like some sort of CSA apologist. Someone please help me out. Is this normal man behavior or is this obsessive and weird? I'm so uncomfortable about it, but I'm even more uncomfortable voicing my unease without solid reasoning beyond it's just too much. Absolutely not normal man behavior and not normal human behavior whatsoever. Yes, pedophiles should be punished. Yes, they're absolutely horrible, but it does not in any way cancel out the fact that your boyfriend actively and very insistently fantasizes about murder. And you know, for some people, I feel like wanting to kill like pedophiles or other criminals or serial killers is like an excuse to legitimize their violent fantasies. It's like with Dexter, right? He killed bad people, but that doesn't mean him less of a bad person himself, because you're still killing, you still enjoy violence. So like, I'm sorry, this is not normal. Jail. Think about it. The man talks actively about wanting to hurt people nearly on a daily basis. Something must be very wrong with him. Secondly, he takes it to such an extreme that he wants to get y'all t-shirts like it's his little hobby or something. I know, thank you, this sounds dangerous and this man sounds alarming to me. Okay, editing to add. A few people have asked if he has any trauma or history of being abused. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Second edit, we've talked about it. It has absolutely nothing to do with extreme right-wing anti-LGBT rhetoric. He reaffirmed not having any issues with queer trans folk and reminded me that his parents are idiots and he doesn't argue with them because he can't change their minds, not because he agrees with them. I assume there is a mention of his parents being bigots and extreme right wing. So he apologized that he didn't realize how much it was bothering me, said that I was right, it is escalating lately, and that due to dealing with some really unpleasant things at work, and he meant it as a coping, venting kind of thing. He reassured me that he would never actually go out and act on it. Yeah, sure. He wouldn't tell you if he was going to, you know? Said he knows that some of the people on the register shouldn't even be there, so there's no way to tell for sure really who did what. I feel a little better, but I'm going to push for individual therapy for both of us. Thank you for your comments and your time. Sure, you can start with therapy, but this man actually sounds a little unhinged. And I think that the top comment here is interesting. Okay, OP, you left out a huge piece of information that takes this from weird/creepy to incredibly dangerous. If he is in law enforcement, he absolutely should not be designing shirts that say kill all pedos, and his whole mentality towards them is going to create a bias if/when he ever interacts with these people that could lead him down a bad path. So yeah, apparently there was a mention somewhere that, you know, he is in law enforcement, which really does take it from just creepy to terrifying, because this man actually has access to more power, to weapons, and worst of all, a register of sex offenders. Okay, so another absolutely unhinged story I have for you today is from True of My Chest again, and it is my 23 female boyfriend, 25 male, choked me in bed last night and I don't know what to do. My boyfriend, 25 male, and I, 23 female, have been together for 2 years. I think it's important to know that my boyfriend is almost a foot taller than me, works out regularly, and weighs about 50 to 60 pounds more than I do. Our sex life was fine until recently. About a month ago, my boyfriend and I were having sex when he just started choking me. At first it was fine, but he kept squeezing my neck harder. I honestly thought he was going to kill me, and he didn't stop until I was hitting him. After that, he apologized profusely and promised to be more careful. He told me he got carried away and he was so into it that he didn't notice he was hurting me. He didn't do it again until last night. We were having sex at his place and he was blasting music. Midway through it, he started choking me. I freaked out when he kept squeezing and I started crying. I tried to tell him to stop and he just pushed my head into his pillow. He kept going until he finished. After he was done, he realized I was crying. Honey, he realized you were crying long before that. He just didn't care and started apologizing. He kept apologizing and saying he didn't mean to hurt me. I left without saying anything. He bruised my neck this time and I can't even look at myself in the mirror without crying. He's been blowing up my phone with apologies. He came to my place several times today, but I didn't have the strength to speak to him. I don't even know what to feel or how to move on from this. He really scared me last night, and I don't think I've ever felt more weak and vulnerable. Well, figures, because you were assaulted. Like, if he didn't want to hurt you, he wouldn't ever try choking you after the first time when you stated you felt awful, you didn't expect it, you didn't like it. He would never do that again. Yet he did that again, then pretended not to see that you were struggling, crying, and telling him to stop. He just pushed you into a pillow and did what he wanted to do. So please leave immediately. He is clearly not concerned about you whatsoever. And I want to remind everybody, since we are on topic anyway, that all the more rough sex stuff should happen after the previous discussion of what everyone is comfortable with. It should never be like, you know, you're dating someone and then they randomly start choking you, because that is not great. This is not a good approach for that, and these things are risky. These things are not everyone's cup of tea, and you should definitely clear the air before attempting something like this. And the fact that he didn't try to talk about it, and then after the first time you didn't like it, he did it again, it means that he does not give a whatsoever. He just likes that feeling of power. He probably enjoys you struggling and crying and whatever. It might get him off even more. So, no, that man is dangerous. And yeah, the last story on the roster of creepy criminal behavior, we have a post from relationship advice. My 20 female boyfriend, 20 male, slapped me after I made a joke. A few weeks ago, my boyfriend and I had an argument. We finally made up after an hour-long fight and going back and forth. We were cuddling, watching a movie in the living room when an actress made a strange face, to which he commented, "She looks like she's coming." I had jokingly looked at him and said, "How would you know what that looks like?" He then slapped me and very seriously said to not joke about that and how that was hurtful. Again, laughing, not because it's funny, laughing because it's just crazy. I just love situations like these when men will hit you and then they will say, "Well, you said something hurtful, so I literally physically assaulted you." Okay. It wasn't very hard, but my face still turned with the impact. To give some context, I like to be slapped in the bedroom every now and then, but this wasn't a situation where I would consent to being slapped. I initially didn't know how to respond and just pulled away. He then continued like nothing happened and went on about his life. Now, that is a sign that not only will it happen again, but it might get worse, because if he continued as if nothing happened, he doesn't see anything wrong with what he did. I was hurt and scared by his reaction. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't a big deal, but now I'm unsure. Am I making too big of a deal of this, or should I be worried about his reaction? Honey, you should leave. I know I'm saying this like a parrot in this episode, but that's what we're dealing with today. I picked specifically horrible stories. It's not acceptable, so you should definitely leave. Never stay with a man who allows himself to hit you. He did it once, he will do it again. 100%. I'm ready to fight to death over this take, but I think that if a man hits you once and you forgive him, it is gonna keep happening and it is gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse. And you know how that might end. So leave, please. I feel like after this episode, I will need a lot of mint tea and a nap because I feel re-traumatized again. I don't know why I did this to myself, but I thought that maybe this might come on the radar of some people for whom it might be helpful, to learn to recognize these things better, to understand them better, and of course to avoid repeating the mistakes that a lot of women make. So this was all I had for you today. Please take care of yourself. I'm sorry if I traumatized someone with this episode. Drop the like, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, though I doubt it, I will see you with another video next week. Bye.